So this is a telenovela level plot twist for DueDissidence. So as you all know, I have been pretty outspoken on trans activism or radical trans activism, which not to be confused with being anti-trans as some would have it. And so one of the first kind of big guests that we had was Buck Angel.
Talking point.
So now Buck has gone in a pretty interesting direction on Zionism and Israel. So now I had heard rumors of this. People had mentioned it to me. But just to show you, Keaton is not the mild-mannered reporter that he appears to be with those glasses. He's actually an instigator. Keaton sent this to me. This whole segment would not even be happening if Keaton had not decided in his wisdom to send me this tweet. So Buck called out this gay man for saying that even if Palestinians are homophobic, he still supports their right to be free. So let's take a look at that video and then we'll discuss.
Talking point going around that I'd really like to address, which is that, oh, you know, you're gay and Hamas would do X, Y, and Z to gay people, and how could you support blah, 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 because, you know, they would just have you killed anyway. I find that to be such a false equivalency. And let me be entirely clear, when I say I would stand up for the liberation of Palestine, even if every single one of them was homophobic.
First off, those aren't talking points.
Okay, first off, I just want to say we should start if we really want to, grow the channel. Apparently, the way to grow the channel is do a split screen where on the left side you have somebody saying something that you find ridiculous, and then you just do like this. You go.
Yeah, we can do that. Have
a little hat tip.
Yeah, that would save our voices
that's not that
too.
hard. Yeah,
that's not hard.
Save our vocal cords. Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly. We can do that. Yeah. You can monetize those. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah.
Anyway, here, let's finish it before we.
Yes, let's finish it.
Every single one of them was homophobic.
First off, those aren't talking points. Those are facts. Secondly, every single one of them are homophobic. So I would love to see you just go over there and say what you say here in your comfortable little space in America where many gays fought for you to be able to even say that. What a shame.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, I'm just assuming people know, but not everybody will. Buck Angel is a trans man who has been very outspoken against what some might term radical gender ideology, treating kids with puberty blockers and hormones, men and women's sports, men identifying as women, using that as an entree to women's spaces such as prisons, rape crisis centers, locker rooms. So we're completely in alignment with that, and we did a 2-hour interview about these subjects way back, where really I was bringing Buck Angel on to show that not all trans people believe in those things, that many trans people who don't, their voices are suppressed, and to run through exactly why I had those views, which I think at that time, even more of the left had not been exposed to a reasonable argument against those ideas, which was why I felt it was important. And I've always referenced him. I actually invited him to come on during the run of the Jimmy Dore show, and he never responded. And now I think I know why.
Yeah,
that was very strange to me.
Time.
Like, like, why would you not want a bigger platform for your message than, I mean, you came on our show when we had 5,000 subscribers
6, 7,
or something.
Whatever it was.
So why would you not want to come on to Jimmy's show now? So that might explain it. This is what he said about this in his tweet. quoting the guy, I would stand up for the liberation of Palestine, which in his editor note, he puts in Hamas. I don't think the guy said Hamas. Even if every single one of them was homophobic, says the gay man who lives in America with gay rights to walk the street, looking however he likes and loving whoever he likes. So tired of these entitled queers not even understanding the space they live in and how many gays fought for us to even be able to walk hand in hand when in Palestine you would be tortured and killed. Do you know where gay Palestine people live? In Israel. Because Israel is LGBT friendly and an actual democracy. Hey, Keaton, didn't they just shut down Al Jazeera?
Well, exactly. Yes,
they just shut down Al Jazeera.
This guy, he does say Hamas, but he doesn't say it as, he doesn't mean it as being synonymous with the Palestinian people. He means it as a governing body. Yes, you know, it's homophobic. That's what he means. He's not saying that all Palestinians are Hamas, which is the formulation that Buck makes, not just in this tweet, but in subsequent tweets as well.
Right. Palestine is run by Hamas, who hate gays. So what are you actually fighting for? If you are fighting for the liberation of Palestine, then free Palestine from Hamas. Okay, so I responded to this. And I think pretty kindly, right? I led with, we love you, right? Buck, we love you, man. And we know you're probably getting a lot of Zionist propaganda from your partner. He's in a relationship with a Jewish woman.
To do. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
always
exactly.
a nice thing. Yeah.
You know, you watch the show. I always blame Keaton's wife when he fucks up.
Yeah.
But you have no idea what you're talking about in this area. Please stop discussing this until you educate yourself. Start here. Now, this was before I had my breakthrough. I probably would have led with Tantora after my friend told me that. But I started with Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom. And I did recommend Tantora, which some people I saw were asking. This is a great documentary, really about the founding of Israel through the lens of what they did to the people in one town called Tantora, where they make a very good case that they mass executed these people, took their houses, and buried them in mass graves. So that's very well worth checking out if you haven't seen it. So Buck then responded to me, okay, keep spewing your Jew hate. I said, we're Jewish. You are sure you're Jewish? So he meant, are you sure you're Jewish? Are you sure you're a Zionist and not just an audience-captured grifter? Was my response. And I think that's probably what it is, and we'll get into that. So then in another thread on the same, response, the same line, somebody tries to explain this to Buck. They're not fighting for Hamas. They're fighting for the Palestinian people, gay, straight, bi, etc. Is the message clear yet? Buck responds, Palestine is Hamas. Learn something. To which Wine and Dine here responds, the innocent people being massacred are not Hamas. There. That's my point. The innocent people are being used by Hamas as shields.
Which is not his point. You lump them all together. I mean,
yeah. You just said Palestine is Hamas.
That's a formulation that the Zionists always say, which is there are no innocent Palestinians. That's what they say.
There are no innocents. Yeah. They all support Hamas. Okay, so Buck, you say, and I'm sure you're going to see this because of the way we're going to put you on blast later on Twitter. So I'm sure you're going to see this segment. So Buck, I'm speaking directly to you. So you tell this person to learn something, while at the same time questioning my Jewish identity without the benefit of being Jewish yourself. Which, listen, I'm not saying you have to be Jewish to speak on this subject. I don't like when other people play that game. I'm not playing that game. But you don't go to, are you sure you're Jewish? Because I'm disagreeing with you about Zionism. That is over the line. And honestly, I would have expected better from you. But okay, you say learn something. So maybe you should learn something. Okay, so you're horrified. You're horrified and upset by Hamas. Do you know who created Hamas? Do you know where Hamas came from? Do you know why Hamas was created? Oh, EU's Burrell says Israel financed creation of Gaza rulers Hamas. Okay, so there was a period where the Palestinian Authority had gained enough legitimacy that there was a lot of pressure from the international community on Israel to recognize a Palestinian state ruled by the Palestinian Authority. Israel funded a group of religious fanatics who later took the name Hamas. They were not originally called Hamas, in order to derail the peace process because they did not want the Palestinians to have a state. So they needed a rival power so that they could say, well, we can't possibly give them a state. Look who rules them, Hamas. Now, if you doubt that, if you say, well, this guy's talking out of turn, well, this was from the New York Times. Until October 7th, Israel was funding Hamas. Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power. That's from liberal rag in good standing, the New York Times. This is Business Insider reporting on the New York Times article. But you can look up the New York Times article. I believe it was published December 14th, if I'm not mistaken. You can very easily look that up.
Yeah.
Was it earlier?
Yeah. Well, this piece is dated December 11th, so it must have been a couple days before.
Okay. So you can go back and you can check that out. So if you really have a problem with Hamas, the people you should really be blaming are the Israelis, the Israeli government, and the people who put this government in power. Some people are trying to deflect to Netanyahu. Well, Netanyahu has been in Israeli politics for over 20 years. You just said it was a democracy. So that reflects the will of the Israeli people, right? If you believe it's a democracy. So don't tell me it's Netanyahu's fault and he doesn't represent the will of the Israeli people, and then tell me it's a democracy. Okay, so now you might ask, well, why can't they peacefully protest for their rights? Well, they did peacefully protest for their rights. It was called the March of Return. They did it for over a year. Let's see how that worked out for them when the Palestinian people tried to peacefully protest for their rights.
ولا شيء بالعكس احنا بصدورنا العارية امام قوة كبيرة من الجيش اللي هي مدرعاتهم واسلحتهم وغازهم وطائراتهم. احنا بالعكس احنا سلميين واعزل السلاح ما فيش معنا اي شيء.
لا جاية أنا فلسطينية
The evidence of numerous blatant war crimes in these regular massacres are there for all to see. Well, let's just take a look at what the United Nations found in their investigation. Facts that cannot be refuted. The UN report released February 28, 2019, documented the extensive human rights violations during the Great March of Return through 2018. Of the 183 fatalities caused by sniper fire investigated by the UN Commission, 171 were clearly murdered, shot in the head or torso. Nearly 8,000 people were wounded by live ammunition. Over that 8-month period, 21 were left permanently paralyzed, and 122 more required limb amputations, including 20 children. In stark contrast, the UN report found 0 fatalities on the Israeli side. Not one Israeli soldier was killed or seriously wounded. 4 claimed scratches from thrown rocks and could only cite property damage from kites and balloons as reason to continue the ongoing massacre.
Flaming kites and balloons over the border.
Throwing rocks comes with a death sentence. You can see that Hashem Fayez Abu Okel is posing no threat to Israeli lives. He's not armed, and he's not breaking through the border fence. But when the shot rings out, it is he who is shot in the head.
All right, so that is from Abby Martin's documentary from 2019, Gaza Fights for Freedom. So, Buck, are you learning something yet? Are you learning something looking at this? I hope you are. Okay, so in the Palestinian Great March of Return, these are just some of the figures of people who were killed and wounded. This was 365 days in. This was something they did every Friday. 266 killed, 50 children, 6 women, 1 elderly man, number of wounded, 30,398. Now, you just saw You just saw the people marching. Did they look dangerous to you? And I had to cut around that because you actually see this kid getting shot in Abby Martin's documentary, and you see a lot of that. So, Buck, you want to learn something, you should definitely take a look at that. Now, if you don't want to listen to us, if you don't want to believe us, if you feel that we're bad actors, you know what? We have somebody discussing this in an interview who I think you love and respect. His name is Buck Angel. So let's take a look at what you had to say about this a year ago.
Yeah, so I want to just set this up because, we had this. So this is me likening, radical trans activists to ultra-Zionist Jews, people pretending to represent a larger group that they don't necessarily represent, right? So I tried to make this comparison, and this was an admittedly crude comparison back from March of last year. This was a year ago, a little over a year ago when we had him on the show. This issue just incidentally comes up. I was talking to Russell about this a couple days ago. Russell and I are both Jewish guys who obviously, this is a left show. We criticize Israel a lot, the state of Israel, the government of Israel. Yeah. And I noticed that whenever somebody criticizes the Israeli government, a bunch of people pile on them saying, how dare you criticize Israel? That's anti-Semitic. Almost none of the people who make that charge are actually Jews themselves. So as a Jew here, I'm saying, hey, you're not. He's very receptive to that. Now, just a note, this was a year ago. So that was a lot more true then than it is now, obviously. Now, a lot of Jews are, because the stakes are much higher now in their mind. So that part is a little dated. So forgive that. But here we go. Here we go. Actually helping. You may think you're standing up for me, but you're not, because all you're doing is perpetuating this sort of false stereotype that all Jews support Israel, right? And so it's kind of a similar thing, I think.
It's not true. My partner's Jewish. I'm not raised Jewish, but I'm converting actually. But that being said, I completely get it. My mother-in-law's full on pro-Israel and I'm not, so we'd get into it all the time, but that's okay. I don't have an issue with that. We get to have these conversations, and I learn from her and she learns from me. I'm not the guy who sits down, just so I'm not the guy who's not willing to have that conversation, and I'm not also willing to get my feelings hurt on some level. That's how you kind of move forward and grow.
So if you notice,
oh wow,
he says, I'm not super pro-Israel. Let's play it one more time. And then I want to play back. I included just because I have to, because it's my favorite joke that I've ever made in the history of the show. We will play that too.
Converting, actually. But that being
converting, right? And so it's kind of a similar thing, I think.
It's not true. My partner's Jewish. I'm not raised Jewish, but I'm converting, actually. But that being said, I completely get it. My mother-in-law's full on pro-Israel and I'm not, so we'd get into it all the time, but that's okay. I don't have an issue with that. We get to have these conversations, and I learn from her and she learns from me. I'm not the guy who sits down, just so I'm not the guy who's not willing to have that conversation, and I'm not also willing to get my feelings hurt on some level. That's how you kind of move forward and grow, is by having difficult conversations.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you thought becoming a man was hard, wait till you try becoming Jewish.
Oh no, dude!
That's my joke I've ever cracked.
Is by having difficult conversations.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you thought becoming a man was hard, wait till you try becoming Jewish. That's my best work.
Oh no, dude! I'm in there. Trust me. I'm in there.
Yet. That was my best work. But more importantly, yes.
Okay, so you're willing to have these conversations. You're willing to grow. You're willing to listen. You're not just gonna shut it down. Huh.
Talking point going around that I really like to...
First off, those aren't talking points. Those are facts. Secondly, every single one of them are homophobic. So I would love to see you just go over there and say what you say here in your comfortable little space in America, where many gays fought for you to be able to even say that. What a shame.
Well, not just that, but he also calls Russell a Jew hater and questions his Judaism. Is that not shutting down a conversation? And this is a conversation, by the way, you claimed to be on our side of when we had you here. Now, were you just bullshitting us because you didn't want it to be a contentious thing on a topic that you weren't here to discuss? Maybe, but likely not, because that was something that he kind of volunteered. Like, I just made that point as an analogy. He could have very easily skated past. Like, I didn't ask for his take on Israel-Palestine. He volunteered it.
No, I think that was his honest take. So this is my working theory. And really, this comes at a perfect moment when I just attended these dissident dialogues where I got insight into this whole anti-woke grift that I really didn't have before. Okay, so unlike me and Keaton, who, let's face it, we're charming and funny motherfuckers, we can and we have each other to bounce off of. So we can kind of sustain our show, but more importantly than that, we're covering current events. And current events constantly change. There's constantly something new coming up to keeping it fresh. When you are this solo content creator who has carved out this very niche lane of commenting on the excesses of trans activism, okay, so even me who agrees with your take on this, I don't want to watch that. Like, how much am I going to watch it? How many times do I need to see you bash the guy in the Planet Fitness locker room? How many times do I need to see that take? So who is really watching this channel? These are the kind of people who paid $3.75 and up approximately to go to the dissident dialogues.
Allegedly.
These are
Rumor
people, rumor has, smart people are saying.
Smart people are saying.
Who are these people? These are people who are absolutely obsessed with the culture wars, who process everything that happens in the world through the lens of the culture wars. And you have to keep those people engaged and interested. So now this conflict came up and you found an angle that is kind of within your niche where you can grift off this conflict in order to keep your audience interested with a new cultural outrage. These damn kids, these queers, they don't realize what would happen to them. Right? And your dumb as dog shit audience is going to go along with it. The ones that are left, because honestly, when I tweeted back at Buck, a lot of people were talking about how disappointed they are in Buck. So, Buck, we have you on tape saying something completely different from what you're saying now. Do I think that you're making it up? No, I think you're financially and personally incentivized to go in this lane in order to maintain and also grow your audience. This is going to give you access to a Zionist audience that might not have necessarily been interested in men and women's sports, right? Now they're going to come, oh, look at this trans person. And they love that narrative. When I went, the second protest I covered, which was outside Columbia, before things got really heated, when they were still protesting outside, I have a guy on video going up to the Orthodox Jews who were pro-Palestine. Are you for gay marriage? Are you for gay marriage? Are you for gay marriage? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Now, now this gay man, this is what I will agree with you on. If you're saying you're queer for Palestine and you think that's returned in the Muslim world, you think the Muslim world is liberal about gays, and this is all one congregation of people against heterosexual, white, patriarchal heteronormativity, yeah, that's an unintelligible position. But this guy, to his credit, made it clear that that's not where he's coming from. He made it clear, and I've always said this, if you're saying queers for Palestine, understanding that the Muslim community tends to be conservative about those issues, but nonetheless, you are going to support their right to exist. You're going to support their right to live in their own society. And you're also going to support their right not to be genocided, not to be murdered. That is, I can't think of a more noble position than that. And you're not taking on his position because he has acknowledged in his formulation that he's not necessarily accepted in these places. Nonetheless, he's going to stand up for their right to have their freedom. That is a very noble vision, which you do not actually take on. You did not actually take that on. All you did was launch ad hominem attacks on a man who expressed a very noble and humanitarian idea that you really did not address. Now, as I saw this week, people can change their minds. And I got the impression of you as a basically good-hearted person. I hope you will take this in. I hope you will watch that Abby Martin video. I hope you will watch Tantura. And I hope your desire to grift and bring in a new Zionist audience, or maybe please your relatives, does not supersede your basic decency. And of course, you are welcome to come on and discuss this.
Please clap.